Hi, welcome to Worth the War. My name is Kimmy. The purpose of Worth the War is rethinking love and relationship and helping to spare hearts by avoiding abuse. If you think we can do a better job with love and relationship than we're doing today, you found the exact right channel. Today, we're going to cover something that I hadn't really planned on covering. I got a lot of information, a lot of notes back from people who are really concerned about why would we want to cover the topic of pornography, especially as it relates to children. And I kind of get that all the time. I get responses for some reason out of all the topics that I dig into. And this one is just one of the kind of tough topics that you have to really get into if you want to start to create some ways to avoid abuse. Is pornography seems to bring people out of the woodwork. And I don't know why that is, but I'm just used to it now. And I got a lot of comments, and I just wanted to cover some of them here on our channel so that we can kind of get it out, get some of the information out as to why I cover topics that are uncomfortable like this. It's taboo. It's taboo. It's awkward. It's uncomfortable. I get it. There's stigma attached to it. I understand that, but there's lots of things that are out in the world today that really need to be considered when it comes to how can we protect the hearts of the little ones that are coming behind us. And pornography is in that range. And it's not because it's a topic that isn't huge that people don't understand that we would want to cover it. It's also because of the fact that pornography is not the same as it used to be. With the advent of streaming porn, all of it changed. So let's talk a little bit about why I want to cover it, why I have to continue to cover it, and why it's really important for us to start to remove some of the roadblocks we have to this conversation if we actually want to do some good. I get notes that kids aren't ready to talk about it. So if you've got a child in their early preteens or they're, 8 or 9 or 10, like this is way, way, way too early. We don't want to talk about it. There's a danger point in that the average age that people start pornography is 11. So if we say we're going to push this off until we're 15 or 16, by then, and if you've ever kind of dipped your feet into the world of people who are trying to recover from an addiction to porn, you'll find out that most people really are into that subject way before parents think they are. And it's not like sitting under the tree with a Playboy like it used to be. It's extremely dynamic. It's very interactive. And it's gotten to the point where the subjects are things that a lot of parents don't even understand anymore. So when people say their kids aren't ready to talk about it, they probably need to consider if the average age is 11, lots of kids are getting exposed before 11, and lots of kids are getting exposed in the time frame that they think they're too young for. So what we don't prepare for, we often have to recover from. So let's think about that. Let's also talk about how this isn't about being a moral policeman. I have my own moral view. I have my own moral standards. That's not what this is about. It's not some kind of crusade against things that I don't agree with. This actually has nothing to do with what I think is right or wrong. If this channel is going to make a difference for people who want to have healthier relationships, and most especially raise kids that are capable of healthier relationships, we can't keep doing the same things over and over. So hiding from topics is something we generally have done as cultures have gone along. If things are uncomfortable, we just skip over them and we let other sources teach our kids. Obviously, that's not ideal. So we need to realize this isn't about applying our moral standards to other people. This is actually in an area and a time when we're supposed to be talking about science, a very science-driven thing that we need to learn about. Pornography has statistics. It has studies. We understand that there are studies that show that people who are engaging regularly in pornography have lower sense of self-esteem because they're really watching something that's not real. It's not realistic. We also know that there are people who have intimacy problems responding to actual other human beings because of what they see and the way that our brains respond to what we see on the screen. So we can really learn an awful lot about that if we're willing to talk about why some of these things are different. In fact, there's a study that came out of Italy that showed we had a younger set that is coming up with ED because they are so tuned into what they see on the screen that by the time they get out there and start to date, they don't really know what to do with the response. It's actually another human being. And there's some sadness that goes with that. So it's not about the moral issues. Of course, I have my moral issues on this and many other topics, but that's really not what I even cover on this channel. And it never will be something I'm going to try to apply to other people. But getting the facts out there is something that we need to do. And along those same lines, I was told, religious people will be offended. Well, first of all, I'm a person of strong faith, and I would say that religious people aren't immune to this problem. Religious people aren't immune to the fact that they need to raise their kids prepared for this problem. So let's, step back and look at that and say the damage that's getting done is getting done across the board. So whether you're religious or not really isn't even relative or realistic to kind of put that as a roadblock up. So I was also told I would lose reach if I continue to cover a topic like this. And I completely agree with that. Absolutely. In fact, there's lots of things that can help us lose reach in social media. I would just argue that if we don't step up and ask social media to be able to tell the difference between someone who's talking about a subject versus someone who's trying to glorify it or get people involved in it or represent things that are not appropriate, I'm very careful with the language that I use when I cover this topic. I'm very careful not to offend or to get people to feel like I'm going for shock and awe. And there's a reason for that, because the topic deserves to be discussed intelligently. We need to have ways to amplify the message that people need to think about what's happening without getting shut down by social media. So lots of times I can't even use the word. I have to be careful how I use it, or I'll get shadow banned, or my reach is slowly or quickly sometimes just diminished when a topic that's uncomfortable for social media comes up. And I get that. But if we're really going to get this information into the hands of the people who need it, we need to find ways to differentiate between people who are covering the subject in really graphic ways and people who are actually trying to help people make informed decisions on a topic. I've also been called a Puritan or somebody, or actually lots of other things that aren't so nice. And I guess I want to be clear that it's important for us to realize that when somebody's offering just an opinion or scientific facts or studies on a topic that we're uncomfortable with, that maybe sometimes that's a sign that we're not really informed. And if we think about, they say on average, 1/3 of pornography is non-consensual. Let's just take that back and say, well, why do we want to cover this and want kids to be aware of that? It's very important for them to be aware of that, because some kids, if the average age is 11, are going to be actually exposed to a version of intimacy that could get them into big trouble. They could get them into legal trouble. They could be seeing something for 4 or 5 years before they have their first kiss that would actually lend them to believe that a certain kind of behavior is what is appropriate and attractive in an intimate situation, which actually could be, quite frankly, illegal. So we need to really be honest and frank about what pornography is depicting and understand that when we put that into the hands and the heart of a young mind, it could be extraordinarily dangerous. And isn't there something worth fighting for when it comes to protecting hearts? Not talking about shutting things down. I'm not talking about telling people what's right or wrong. I'm just talking about developing minds deserve a shot to understand what's real, what's not, what could possibly end up being the worst thing that they get trained in. So if we're leaving our sex education to other people, if we're leaving our children's idea of what sex and intimacy is up to their peer groups, I think we're going to run into bigger problems than we even did 20 or 30 years ago. And the stakes are only going to get higher. So thank you for hearing me out. Thank you for sticking with me. If you're still on our channel and you're still willing to fight into some tough subjects that will actually, in the long run, I believe, help to spare hearts. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.